Listen. Turn me up, turn me up, turn me up. Come on.
Welcome back to MMA Today. My name is Tom Caprio, and you're listening to the best place for the latest news and views and interviews in the world of MMA. MMA Today is produced by Sweet Sports and Entertainment, and you can check them out at sweetse.com. This segment is being brought to you by Brickhouse Gear, and you can check them out at brickhousegear.com. Brickhouse Gear is a major sponsor of our own fantasy MMA game, a place where you can win fight tickets and gear by just playing the game. You can check them out at MMATodayShow.com. I'd like to welcome our special guest on the show today. He has a professional record of 27 wins and 5 losses. He is an extremely well-rounded fighter. He fights in the UFC welterweight division. He has 13 knockouts and 13 submissions with 27 wins. He's been fighting professionally since 2002. I'm talking about Carlos Condit. Carlos, are you there with us?
Yeah, how's it going?
Great, great. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show today. Looking back at your record, I noticed, man, you got just a phenomenal record. You started out with 8 wins in a row, and then you got, a loss here or there. But when you look back over that, do you look at it and say, I'm really on the rise, or how do you deal with the smattering of losses here and there?
A lot of times it was just, I think maybe getting too far ahead, the competition getting too far ahead of where I was skill-wise. And then sometimes, I just, maybe lost focus. Like you said, I've been fighting since 2002. But every one of those losses, I learned a lot from and came back stronger.
Well, you've got some pretty impressive wins, too. I mean, looking at that list, most recently, Dan Hardy, Rory McDonald, Jake Ellenberger, Frank Trigg. But there was a period there where you had back-to-back split decisions. You had a loss to Martin Kampmann, and then you had a split decision win over Jake Ellenberger. Did you learn something from that when you came back with a split decision win, or is that just something that frustrates you, or how do you deal with that?
I try not to dwell too much on it. The loss to Kampmann, I learned a lot from that. Going into the third round of that fight, I felt like I was up 2 rounds and kind of just cruised through that third when I really should have been pushing the pace, and ended up losing a split. And that was definitely a learning experience. And the fight against Ellenberger was a little bit different. I knew that I had lost the first, and the second one was really close, so I had to make sure that that I finished strong. And and then since then I kind of just been back to my old ways of finishing guys.
Now, one of the things I also noticed in looking back at your record of fighting, you've only fought once in the last year. Is that because of all the controversies that's been going on with the Diaz and the fight with George St Pierre and all that kind of stuff, or is this something you've been dealing with injuries, or how is that the reason you haven't fought for so long?
It's kind of a combination of that stuff. Early last year, I was supposed to fight Chris Lytle, and I had a pretty bad injury to my knee that kept me out for about 6 months, and so healed up from that. Fought Don Young Kim in July, I believe, and then was supposed to fight George St Pierre. Well, was originally supposed to fight BJ Penn, and then I was supposed to fight George St Pierre in October, and that fell through. And so that's why I wasn't busier in 2011. I would have liked to have been, but it's just kind of how it went.
So for you, what would be the ideal number of fights in a year?
I would like to fight 2 to 3 times a year, just because the level of opposition right now. I need longer and longer to train. But yeah, 2 to 3 times a year would be good.
Well, we've seen George St Pierre a lot on the news lately in MMA with regard to his injury with the ACL, and one of the things he indicated was that he didn't recover fully enough from an injury to the other leg, and so he overcompensated, and that brought that out. Has that taught you, and let's just say a lot of the fighters in the MMA community, to kind of put off the fights and make sure that you're healthy enough to continue?
Well, that's hard. George St Pierre is in a position where he's pretty secure. He's pretty secure, as far as his career, as far as his legacy, and financially, I imagine. But with other fighters, they're really living fight to fight, and that's what's paying the bills. So sometimes you gotta kind of overlook an injury, or just kind of put it in the back of your mind and hope that it doesn't become a bigger problem. And sometimes it does, like in the case of George.
Well, we've also seen situations where guys have had to pull out of fights, almost on the eve of the fight itself, and I understand what you're saying, because there's been a big fury lately about the feud. You probably heard about this, ESPN fighting with UFC and Zuffa about how the fighters are paid. And one of the questions or concerns has been, the lower level fighters, are they really getting paid a fair shake? I mean, we all see the Brock Lesnar's and the top guys are making really good money, but it's like you said, the guys that are fighting paycheck to paycheck, and if they deal with an injury, they're struggling. Do you agree with that in terms of it's just tough being a new fighter, breaking in? And I mean, not that that's where you're at, but that you see it around you all the time because MMA is growing so fast?
Well, yeah, it's a tough way to make a living, and whether you're kind of on the bottom end of the pay scale, or towards the middle, or even on the high end. So as the sport grows, I think the pay is going to grow, and it's tough. It's tough. There's a lot of guys that have talent and have a lot of potential, but stuff happens. They get injured, can't do a fight, can't pay the bills, and end up doing something else, having to kind of give up on their dreams. And for every one successful guy that you hear in the UFC, there's probably 20 years or 30 guys that washed out and weren't able to do what they wanted to with their lives as far as pursuing a career in MMA.
And I agree with you there 100%. And when we see guys like Anthony Rumble Johnson, who was just let go of the UFC, you can't help but feel for a guy like that and say, wow, it's such a life-changing event where here you are in one of the best organizations out there in MMA, and you're looking at the potential of being considered a contender for a title fight. Next thing you know, you're out there hanging your shingle saying, anybody need a fighter out there? That can be a real tough thing. How much do you feel in terms of pressure as a fighter to promote your own fights and build your name? Because I think you're such a good fighter, but at the same time, a lot of people, you're not the guy that stands out on the soapbox screaming like a Chael Sonnen or even a Nick Diaz who might be screaming expletives. Do you feel pressure to sell yourself or sell a fight?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. It's not just training for a fight and stepping in there and fighting. You have to promote the fight. You have to promote yourself. You have to look at this as a business. This is your job. This is what pays the bills. So you got to do what you got to do to promote yourself. On the other hand, though, I'm not gonna compromise who I am and try to be something that I'm not just to sell fights. I really feel that you gotta you got to get it while the getting's good. And you know, I'm doing my best to get everything I can in this run that I'm on, and you know, including being smart, you know, making smart financial decisions outside, and then, you know, being smart with the decisions that I make in my career.
Well, I tend to see you as one of the hopefully success stories in MMA, because we love to see guys like yourself who are great role models. You're out there busting your butt, working hard at the game, and you're succeeding in a very strong way. So it's a good thing to see, and I think you're one of those guys that really the UFC needs to highlight more of, because you're great role models. But when you get into a fight with, you know, like the Diaz brothers, and I think we've seen this after the most recent fight with Nate Diaz and Cowboy Cerrone, where afterwards they kind of alluded to that, yeah, a lot of it was hype to sell the fight, and you know, here they're doing things like knocking each other's hat off or giving each other the finger, stuff like that. In one sense, you know, the Diaz brothers have made themselves a persona of the bad boys, and they get the fans to say, man, we want to see somebody kick their butt. In another sense, you know, it's hype to sell the fight. Do you as a fighter ever get caught up in that, or do you just see it as hype, or do you blow it off, or do you use it as incentive to get you angry so that when you go in there, you're more motivated to take apart your opponent?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it anger, because honestly, unless you were scheduled to fight a guy, you know, a lot of these guys I wouldn't have any problem with. But you know, you add that competitive edge to it, and you know, all of a sudden, you know, you don't like each other anymore, and you know, a lot of that's kind of just the competition, and I feel like that's a lot of what it was between Cowboy and Nate Diaz. But yeah, it's definitely motivating to have a guy who's trash talking, try to put you down, or try to put your skills down. You know, it's like, well, okay, you know, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to prove you wrong. Everything that you're saying, I'm going to make you eat your words.
Well, you know what, I really like what you said in terms of it's competition, and you know, there's motivation there behind it, because unfortunately the thing that kind of discourages me, and I think it hits some of the fans, don't get me wrong, you were absolutely right earlier when you said this is a business. You're out there entertaining the fans just like the NFL players were entertaining the fans, or the NBA players. But in another sense, for those of us who are, you know, spectators and love the sport, we're there because of the competition, because we like to see the anticipation who's going to win. We like to see that competition, and I think that some of the fighters forget that, and they just think they're putting on a good show, and sometimes it comes across. I think, how do you keep that level for yourself in terms of, look, I'm out here to win this thing, not just put on a show and entertain the fans?
You know, it's kind of a fine line. You know, you see a lot of guys getting criticized, you know, for maybe like a boring fighting style, because they're just trying to win, and maybe their style or the way that they're fighting isn't as entertaining. I don't really have that problem, because that's the way I win fights. I go out there, and you know, I feel like it's, you know, either you're gonna kick my ass, or I'm gonna kick your ass, and you know, so it's a tough thing. You know, you got guys, you know, if they lose 2 fights, they're out. Their career's done. They got to go and look elsewhere for employment, and then to, you know, put that pressure on them, and then also put the pressure of trying to you know, have it entertain, and it's you know, it's a lot to handle.
Now, you talked earlier about being wise, because I think you're one of the smarter guys out there in terms of saying, you know what, I've got a limited career. I want to be wise with what I earn. I want to prepare myself for the future. Do you have plans down the road in terms of where you go when your fighting career is over?
Yeah, you know, I'm getting some stuff set up right now. But I even when I'm not fighting, I'm still going to be doing something with mixed martial arts. You know, this is my passion. You know, I'll most likely transition to a different aspect of the sport, whether it's promoting fights or commentating or training fighters, or maybe all of that. You know, as the sport grows, you know, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Outside of you know, competing professionally, you know, then I got some other aspirations as well.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's good to see guys like Kenny Florian and Stephan Bonner stepping up to the mic and, you know, finding another area of MMA that they can excel in. And I think that those guys have done a great job. I think you do a great job too, because you do have an intelligence about you when you speak, and you have also an element that reaches out to the fan. As you anticipate this fight coming up with Nick Diaz, is there anything in particular, you know, you prepare yourself for? Because Nick comes in as a guy who, you know, he's going to come straight at you. He's going to use his reach. He's got a cardio that doesn't stop, and he certainly comes across like the kind of guy who wants to pound your face into the pavement. So it does give you this, man, we want to see you kick his butt, so to speak. So what aspect do you prepare most for? I mean, is it I want to get him down on the ground? Is it I want to defend against his punches, or I want to learn to be quicker than him on the punch?
Well, he's well-rounded, so, you know, to have kind of a one-dimensional game plan would be a mistake. You know, he's got great jiu-jitsu, so taking him down is dangerous. Great stand-up, so you know, keeping the fight standing is dangerous. So, you know, we have plans for both of those aspects of the fight, but you know, a lot of it is being in shape to deal with his pace that he brings, and also being mentally prepared for, you know, hitting him with my hardest shot and him just walking through it, because, you know, the guy's got a granite chin, and you know, being able to, you know, keep up the amount of damage that I'm doing for 5-minute rounds, and you know, that's really, you know, kind of in a nutshell, that's the plan.
So do you think it's to your advantage or to his advantage if this thing goes the distance?
You know, it's hard to say. You know, it depends on how you know, who's able to impose their will. We have the striking. You know, we have different styles. I'm more of a Muay Thai fighter. He's got a real good boxing style. I'm ready for 5-minute rounds. I can keep up with his pace. You know, I'm ready to go.
Well,
so, you know, and he does have that endurance aspect in his game, but I'm not intimidated by that.
Well, I'd love to see you come out of this thing, pull off a win, and then, you know, watch you go for a title fight. But one concern I do have, and how does this sit with you? George St Pierre basically came out and said he's probably not ready to fight until November. Is that too much of a layoff if you were to prevail against Diaz?
Well, I guess that's really up to the UFC. They want to see another title fight between February 4th and, you know, whenever George is ready to come back. You know, it's kind of their decision.
Well, if you had a choice, I mean, let's say this is for an interim belt, right? So if you have a choice, let's wait for George St Pierre or take one of the other guys on the list. Would it be your choice just to keep training and waiting, or would it be your choice to, you know what, I'll take on another guy? Because let's face it, if you're really going to be the champ, you know, you've got to be able to defend that title. So which works better for you? I would be into fighting somebody else. You know, in the meantime, you know, like I said, you know, kind of depends on you know, what the UFC brass wants to do. Sure. I would be up for fighting whoever, you know, whether it's George or whether it's you know, one of these other top contenders. But honestly, I'm not looking that far ahead. Sure. And don't get me wrong.
My plate, and you know, I got plenty to deal with right now.
Absolutely. I'm not in any way, shape, or form thinking you should look past Nick Diaz, because, let's face it, he came over from Strikeforce, and with his mouth, he's made himself one of the biggest things in the welterweight division. So I am really looking forward to seeing you fight. I'm looking forward to you having a great showing and hopefully having your hand raised at the end of the fight. Do you have any shout-outs you want to give before we go to a commercial break?
First of all, I'd like to thank all the fans. I get a ton of motivation from all the support that I get. I have great sponsors. Head Rush brand, they're putting out a signature shirt for me. It's pretty killer design. Venom Fightwear, I got a pair of signature shorts that they're marketing right now. My team. I couldn't do it, and I wouldn't be where I am without my training partners and without my coaches.
Well, we've really appreciated you joining us, Carlos. You've done a phenomenal job of being a respectable guy in the welterweight division, in spite of all the conflict and swirling and things going on around you. So we wish you the best. We're looking forward to a good fight, and we're looking forward to the possibility of you moving on after this fight to a title fight. So thank you for joining us, and we'll hopefully look forward to an interview with you after the win. That was Carlos Condit. He'll be fighting Nick Diaz at UFC 143 on February 4th in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can watch it on pay-per-view, or if you get the opportunity, go see it live, man. There's nothing like being at a UFC live event. So we want to say thanks to Carlos Condit for a fantastic interview, and we wish him luck in his upcoming fight. Stay tuned for more discussions on the latest news in the world of MMA and more on the upcoming UFC. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Listen. Turn me up, turn me up, turn me up. Come on.
Cigars are hand-rolled in South Florida, made from the finest tobacco leaves from around the world. Maya cigars are made by real Cuban tabaqueros in the one and only cigar factory located right here in West Palm Beach, Florida. Since 1896, the Rodriguez family from Cuba has made fine cigars. Trained in Cuba, Rodriguez personally hand-selects all his own aged tobacco leaves. Superb Cuban seed Dominican-grown cigar tobacco is smooth to the end. This sacred combination of aged pristine tobacco with over 100 years of Cuban cigar experience is now what we proudly call a Maya. The Maya family guarantees the freshness and quality of your cigars, and we hand inspect and select every cigar before packaging for shipment. We offer you the selection of cigars made the same day of shipment or from our reserve from Maya's humidor. Each cigar gets the attention of an expert cigar maker. Maya handmade cigars are located at 927 Belvedere Road, West Palm Beach, Florida. Call us at 561-659-3202. That's 659-3202. Or find them on the web at www.mayacigars.com.
Sweet Sports and Entertainment not only produces the program MMA2DAY, this company is a complete sports, arts, and entertainment management, consulting, and promotion firm. SSE provides pro athlete, artist, entertainer management, and agent services, contract negotiations, marketing, merchandising, and endorsement contracts, event planning, management, and promotion, media, entertainment management, and consulting. SSC is known for its relationships in the financial services industry for investment services, financial management services, retirement and estate planning services. Not to mention that SSC President Jim Sweet is a practicing attorney who is a member of the Entertainment, Arts, and Sports Law and Family Law Divisions of the Florida Bar, licensed in the states of Florida and Montana. So if you're an athlete, artist, or entertainer, and are looking for professional representation, please contact SSE via their website, www.sweetse.com, or by phone at 561-253-4867.
Listen. Turn me up, turn me up, turn me up. Come on.
We're back live from sunny South Florida. This is MMA Today. You can listen to us live on WPBR 1340 AM in Southeast Florida, or on the web at WPBR1340am.com, or you can listen to us live on your phone at 712-432-6625. That's 712-432-6625. So if you get to be away from your phone or your computer, you can still hear the show. This segment is being brought to you by FightChurch.com. Fight Church is short for Fight Church MMA Chaplains Ministry, which is a nonprofit Christian-based organization out of Nevada designed to reach out to the MMA community with faith, encouragement, and support. Check them out at FightChurch.com. We'd like to thank Carlos Condit for joining us in our last segment. That was an interview that I had the privilege of talking to Carlos yesterday, and we ran into some technical difficulties during the recording, and we apologize for that, but we felt that the time spent with Carlos was so important we wanted to put it on the air even though we ran into some difficulties.
No, Tom, it was a great interview, by the way. I'm definitely